Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. Hey, welcome back to the show. Today, I'm sharing with you an episode that I did on another podcast because I love sharing more of my story and unique perspectives based on questions that hosts ask me. I hope you enjoy this episode and can dive deeper into learning from this podcast and from others. Check the link in the show notes for more information on this host, their episode, and where you can find the full content.
Welcome to Pretty Rich Podcast, where you're totally the heroine of your own story. I'm your host, Sheila Bella, and I built a 7-figure PMU beauty biz and a 7-figure online biz without a degree, without a fancy website, or a sugar daddy. And if you and I hang out on here long enough, you're going to start to believe that you can do it too. How about that for a side effect of listening to this podcast? Because you really can. I know you think, I don't know you, I have no idea who you are, but I do. I really, really do, because I am you. I was you. And I believe we are all on the same journey together. My perfect job didn't exist, so I created it. The job I wanted wasn't hiring me, wanted nothing to do with me. So I skipped the line and hired myself as CEO. Just like you can. So consider me your secret beauty biz BFF in case you need to be reminded on a weekly basis that power is never just handed to you. You have to take it. Are you ready, beauty boss? Let's jump in.
Guys, I'm so excited to introduce this woman to you. Shannon is my CPA, certified personal consultant, and we get personal. And we're about to get even more personal today. She don't even know. Okay, so Shannon, for those who may not know who you are and who are coming across you for the first time, aside from my personal heartfelt testimonial, was Shannon has honestly saved me over $1 million. Just this year. And I'm like, what? I can't believe it. That was what? So can you give us a little bit of a background as to who you are and how you came to be?
Sure. So obviously I'm the CPA. I went off on my own after working for big 4 firms and realized that my real passion is in teaching and in empowering those who didn't maybe learn this in school or didn't get this from their parents to be able to, run their business successfully without worrying about the money side of stuff or having it cause fear or stress.
Yeah, your posts really resonate with me because it's all the stuff that, I worry about as a business owner. I think the very first post that you created that really caught my attention is, am I going to jail? That's something that a lot of people have.
Yeah, actually, that post, I got 20 DMs in an hour that was like, "Is that me? Is that because I asked you that?" I'm like, all of you did. That's why I made it, because everybody texts me I just don't want to go to jail. And then I say, why would you go to jail? And they say, I don't know.
I don't know, but am I going? I don't want to go. But you tell me, am I?
You're not going to jail. I think it's God, I can't remember the statistic. I'll have to find it. But 100 people ever
But Martha Stewart went to jail
for insider trading. So it's a little bit different, but it's for tax stuff. It's really only a handful of people, and you never really go to jail for just getting something wrong. It's not like a test where you fail it.
Yeah, it's so scary.
if something's wrong on your taxes and you did it yourself, like, and they catch it, they just say, okay, well, we did it right. Can you just pay the taxes you owe? And you pay them. And it's very like low stress, low adrenaline. It's just pretty simple. Like, hey, you did this wrong. Here's the corrected version. Sorry. And you owe us a little bit more. That's the
I
end of it.
don't, I still, it still doesn't feel that way. I
Yeah.
know you're right. But everybody, when I do my taxes every year, I still feel like if I put the wrong number down, I'm going to jail. That's it. That is it.
Right.
So you've worked with a ton of businesses, but it's in many ways even more intimate than the way that the capacity that I have in working with businesses because, money is so personal to a lot of people. I'm trying to make it not to be so much, but it is very personal. And so you're inside people's books, right? If they have a subscription to something that, they might not want public, you might see that like, oh, wow, okay.
It's like a doctor when you go for your physical and it's like,
Yeah.
well, like they're gonna see everything. But you
They're gonna
trust
see
them, they're
everything.
professional, and we're also upheld to a code of conduct, kind of like patient confidentiality is client confidentiality. Like I will never talk about a client with another client. They talk to each other and they may know that they both hired me. Like they may know I'm
Mhm,
their CPA. Like you mentioned that I'm your
mhm,
CPA. That's
mhm,
fine. But I would never share, outwardly, oh, well, Sheila's doing this or doing that, or she
mhm.
subscription to whatever. Like that's a ethical violation. I my license over something like that. So we keep it very
Right.
serious.
Okay. And I also find that, what you have is you speak a language that, a lot of us don't speak. And you also have insights that a lot of us don't have. So, with having worked with like a gazillion different businesses, small businesses, big businesses, what wisdom nuggets do you have that the average person may not be privy to about what it's really like? What do people's books really look like in who have businesses?
Yeah. And it goes back to like when you said I speak another language, that's actually how my dad convinced me to be an accountant. He's like, you speak this language people don't speak, and you need to go share it with people. And that was a huge start of my career. But
I want to circle back to that too.
yeah, we will. Where people usually start. So usually when I pick up a new client's books, commonly they may have like their business and personal are commingled. It's just one bank account, right? It's not separated. Maybe there's no system to actually keep track of what's going in and out of the business. And there's definitely no data really. It's kind of like winging it and managing from emotion or managing from
Well,
opportunity
that's how you go to jail.
without having the strategy and the advanced planning. Because I just told this to I'm doing a challenge right now in my community, and I just shared with them yesterday a nugget about how everyone that you see being successful does everything calculated, literally.
Hmm.
Like they calculate the data. They see when the good time to post is. They see when the good time to invest is. They understand their cash flow. They understand their revenue. They understand the key metrics they need to know just enough to be dangerous, right? Like
Mm,
not the end to end, but they have somebody in their corner who can break it down and explain
mhm.
these 4 things you need to know that are measuring your performance, and then do that feedback loop of what do I need to adjust and change in order to grow. And that's where a really good CFO or accountant comes in to be able to advise.
Wow, that's awesome. So, do you think what do you think the common denominator is in successful businesses and how they spend their money?
Common in successful business is how they spend their money. I would say the whole thing is mindset that that's not your money, that's the business's money.
Yeah.
So when you start respecting the boundaries of that is my business's money, and if I need it, I can go ask them to give me some, as opposed to in a personal piggy bank, right? When you
Yeah.
draw the lines and treat them separately, that's where it gets messy because not only
Mm,
have them separated in different bank accounts, if you're using that as a personal piggy bank and withdrawing from it frequently,
uh-huh.
you're not allowing it to, replant the seeds that it's sowing. So like you're earning all this income and then you can then plant those seeds to grow more income. But if you're
Mhm,
sowing, you're harvesting too soon. If you're pulling money out, and your business won't be able to grow because it won't have the fuel it needs to grow. Now,
mhm.
different with how they do that. But I'd say the most common thing I see from successful business owners is really understanding that
Yours.
race of the business's money. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, that's definitely a mindset that I had to learn. My first like couple years of business, I thought it was all mine. I'm like, no, don't do that. You're gonna go to jail. But yeah, definitely. So now I feel like I respect it now more than ever, and I'm more profitable than ever. But it's like I see it and I'm like, well, cool, cool. It's there. It doesn't feel like mine. It really and then a lot of times you tell me, no, 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 this you can take. No, this is yours. And I'm like, really?
Yeah. Yeah. And how you take it out depends on what type of entity you are. But yeah, you have to, it's a healthy mindset of respecting this is the business's money, but not being afraid to ask it for some.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So this is the question that Will and I had for you. There is, I think, a stigma. And every time I say it around people who aren't business owners, I feel like, oh, are you judging me? Oh my gosh, I just said the thing. Like, because when I say I'm trying to save money on taxes, right? When I say that around people who aren't business owners, I always get a little uncomfortable. Maybe I shouldn't have said that because I think it's a misconception. The misconception is that it's an evil thing. It's an evil, immoral thing to not want to pay your share, right? And so, do CPAs like you get villainized for helping business owners save money on taxes? And what are your thoughts about that?
So there's a couple of analogies I use. I love the idea of like paying your fair share. I go, I'm all for paying your fair share, just not leaving a tip. Okay. We're not just going to leave a tip for the IRS because we feel
I've been tipping for years.
right. So what I do is I actually equate. So taxes in America are a giant board game we are all forced to play as adults. Like you're forced to sit at the table and you're forced to be a part of this game, even though you don't want to be. But very few people went and studied the rules. so
I am so bad at game night. You can ask Julie.
So
I'm so bad at game night. Yeah.
so
Okay.
we don't know the rules, right? We don't know the rules, but we're forced to play this game and we win or lose. So the thing is, there's nothing wrong with wanting to win the game by playing by the rules versus cheating. And that's the difference between tax avoiding and tax evading. And most people don't know the difference. Tax avoidance is the legal mastery of your tax strategy so that you're optimizing what you're keeping and not paying the government because they created a tax code that is 95% what you're not taxed on. It's 95%, it's 5%. Here's what you're taxed on. Here's your income. And then 95% accept all this.
Okay. Doesn't feel like that in California sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's the reverse in California. Yeah. But in most of the tax code in the IRS enforces, and by the way, Congress wrote the tax code, the IRS enforces it. So if you don't like something in the tax code, that's your congressperson. So they created this rule book that we follow, right? A few of us mastered it. We're all forced to play this stupid game, right? But at the end of the day, mastering a tax strategy and playing by the rules in an intelligent way is nothing to be judged for. There's nothing wrong with learning the rules and trying to win as opposed to sitting on the sidelines or as opposed to trying to cheat your way to the top. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think it's cheating when you're winning.
Says something about them. I hear it. Well, I'm all for being able to spend my money the way I see fit too. I think employment, as I say it all the time. I think it's like one of the best things you could do with your success is providing somebody else with an opportunity. It's the way it's giving somebody else the opportunity to rise up and labor their wealth and their legacy. So it's where I think it's one of my favorite ways to spend my money is employment.
I totally agree. My husband and I are owners, and we both said our moments as entrepreneurs were when we hired our first person and gave them a job.
Yeah, I hear you on that.
what are some common misconceptions people have around money? And where and why is there such a stigma around it? Oh, we can go on and on with this one.
Right. I mean, everyone has their own theories, but it all goes back to what your image of money is, because money is actually a simple piece of paper, right? Like it's paper. It was used to like trade food and horses because they had no other way of like figuring out how to, have an equal exchange in transactions in commerce, right? So it's that simple. It's just a currency. It's just a piece of paper. The value we assign to it is all in our heads. Like the same person can look at or two different people can look at the same $20 bill and see a different thing there. Some people see a $20 bill and they think, oh, that's lunch. Some people see a $20 bill and they think, that could buy way more. That's an experience with my family. That's something else, right?
Facebook
So
ads.
Facebook, yeah, that's Facebook ads. So it's money has the value and the energy that you give it. So
Agree.
if you view money in a negative light, it doesn't want to spend much time with you. How would you feel if somebody treated you like you treat money, right? Like if you're dating them, you want to welcome them in, you want to speak their love, but it comes down to like the stigma around money. I think, at least as someone who grew up in the 90s with like a ton of Disney movies, the rich person was always the villain.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Like there was never, it was always like rooting for the underdog. The rich guy was always the villain.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
always they're chasing money and nothing else. They were one-dimensional evil characters centered around money.
Yeah.
Undertone of like wealthy equals evil, or wealthy equals I have this
Mm.
and we should be rooting for everyone else. Of course, we should be rooting for everybody, but there's nothing wrong with having money and doing good with it. And one huge mindset shift that a lot of people are going through now is, money itself just buys you choice. It buys you the choice, the ability to do what you want with that money.
Mm.
And that's giving back. That's, creating jobs. That's doing a lot
Mhm.
of things that, you otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to do. And we
Mhm.
always say too, like, when you fly in an airplane and they say put your mask on before assisting others. You
Mhm.
have to maintain your financial stability so that you can help as many people as
Yeah.
possible about having the resources to do it.
Yeah. Do you agree with the statement that money is just the great revealer of like what has always been there?
I think so. I think like if you're a good person and then you're a good person with money, or a bad person and a bad person with money, it just kind of showcases a little bit more of, because it showcases your choices.
Mhm.
Hard to hide from your choices because actions speak louder than words.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, okay, so it's like, how can you be noble? It's not as genuine to say somebody is noble if they don't have the option to be evil. You don't have the option to be evil. So, like, for example, like, I'm gonna get in the weeds here. So, like, if your husband, like my husband, if he was Justin Timberlake and he had options to cheat, right? Like women just throwing themselves at him all day long, and he doesn't. Like, that's a really good guy. Versus, I don't know, he's a guy who doesn't have those options, right? Guy who, like, keeps to himself, who stays where he doesn't have those options. It's not as hard. It's not as hard.
Yeah,
It's
you're
not as hard.
temptation to do the opposite. I understand. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm glad we're on the same page. Anyway, I always ask Wells, like, is anyone cute at your job right now since you're back in person? And he's like, no, no. All right, cool. And then I scan the room every time I'm at a function. Anyway.
I think there's
Um,
that though, like nobility, you can prove it by being tested, right? But
yeah.
also, I think you can also be noble when you're not tested. Because who can say what you would do?
Who can say?
Who can say?
Who can say? But I don't know if, like, for myself, I don't know if I want to be tested.
No.
But you can test me with money because I'm secure there. You can test me all day. I will pass. Be fine. Cool. Um, So, what made you, let's go back to your story about your dad. You said your dad told you that you speak this language.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, how did he know that you spoke the language, and what language was that? Like, what was the defining moment for him where you're like, wow, you speak this language, you should do this?
So for context, my dad was a CPA and owned his own firm my whole life. And ever since I was a little kid, ever since he would ask me questions, he was like, "Do you want to be an accountant when you grow up?" And I said, "No," because you don't want to make your dad happy. I was like rebellious and said, like, "No, I'm not going to do what you do. Like, that's boring. Like, look at all those binders. Like, what do you even do all day?" And
Binders.
yeah, it's like, you know, like in this boring office, and what do you even do? So it doesn't look like fun. It's just spreadsheets and things, right? Like, well, it wasn't even spreadsheets because it was like 1990. Um, so, so when I got to high school, I was very lucky. When I got to high school, they offered an accounting class as an elective. Like, you had to take a business class, a practical arts, they called it. It could be like typing because it was.
Okay.
um,
Did you
so-
take accounting because you thought it would be easy because your dad did it and he could like help you?
no, I actually didn't want to take it, but I had to take a practical art. Dad said, you should take accounting because it satisfies both of your semesters. It's a whole year class. He said, I want you to take accounting. And if you hate it, I will never bother you again and never ask you again to be an accountant. And
So
if
he's been asking you? He was
he,
asking you?
he was asking me like every chance he got, he's like, "Do you want to be an accountant?" No, no, no. It was so annoying. But he said, I will stop asking you if you hate it, but if you love it, you have to major in it. And I said, okay, you're on, because I'm super competitive. I'm super competitive, especially with him. So lo and behold, 2 weeks into accounting 101 in my junior year of high school, the teacher comes up to my parents at that like teacher meet and greet night. And she says, "I'm upping Shannon to honors accounting with the senior. She has over 100 average." And she put her other people because she gets it. And she looked at my dad and said, "She gets it." And my dad went to me like the next day, and he sat me down and he was like, "No one understands this." He says, "This is a very small number of people understand this, Shan. You need to teach this. You need to share this with other people. You speak this language," which was basically, opening yourself up to learning about accounting and the framework around it. It's like learning math and calculus and algebra. It's like it just gets ingrained in your head. And we learned all these things like when we were in school, like in sixth, seventh grade, you learn pi and you learn what all this stuff means. It was similar for me. I just absorbed it, accepted it, and said, okay, that's how it works. I understand. And on and on, I eventually just kind of absorbed more of it and got used to it. And I didn't find it that challenging. I learned it like anyone else learns anything else. But what I was realizing was that other people were struggling with it because there was just a difference in how they were looking at it.
Mhm.
And I said, I'm going to try to share this with them. And I learned a lot from my dad. When I was like 12, he bought me my first stock share because I wanted a toy at Toys R Us. And he was like, "I'm not going to spend money on that. I'm going to buy you a piece of the whole toy store." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Of course, like
Wow.
ever for like adults, are like, "That's such a cool thing to do for your kid." Like as a 12-year-old, I was pissed. I was like, "I want PlayStation. That's stupid. Piece of paper." But look back, I realize now what he was actually teaching me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you decided to major in it,
Yeah.
and why do you think you fell in love with it?
Because I actually have a passion for teaching. I realized that. And that's why a lot of my stuff is so educational.
Mm,
Coaching, why I love explaining and rooting for my clients along the way, not just doing the work, but like
yeah.
process. And my joy comes in helping people and realizing that this was one of the areas where I could truly make an impact by helping people. So that's
Mhm.
actually why behind what drives me versus the saving money, doing the account, like the introverted stuff sitting in the corner and like all of those stereotypes, like the green visor and the little like I hated that because I said, "That's not me." But we have this stigma around even the accounting profession, like we're boring, introverted, old white guys.
Introverted. Yeah. Yeah.
And and that couldn't be further from the truth. I tell people all the time, close your eyes, picture an accountant. Was it an old white guy in a suit? I'm like, yeah. And that's what I want to change.
Oh, yeah, I love it. Next question. What do you think is holding people back from financial success that they want in their business and their lives? Having this insight, you would know.
I mean, first of all, it comes down to mindset. Without that, that's the foundation for everything. So if if you are hesitant to address any financial concern, if you don't look at it, if it's on the back burner, if you get a letter and you never open it, if you push that to the side and don't look at it, that's like the biggest mistake you can make is not addressing it, because then it turns into this the bed because you won't go look at it and you think it's a monster.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember a time in my life where I just collected mail that I didn't understand. It was a while. I just collected it because it was intimidating. And then I figured I can't pay this anyway. What do you say to those people who might be in that position?
Yeah, I think say I can't pay this. You pay what you can. So if you get a bill, like in a practical sense, if you get a bill from the IRS and you're like, I can't pay this, you pay what you can, or you go on a payment plan, or you communicate with them proactively and say, I can't pay this. What are my options? And they will work with you. They're actually super flexible. The one thing you don't do is ignore it. Because if you ignore it, then they send another letter, another letter, another letter. And then eventually they can garnish your paychecks. They can garnish your bank account. If it's on file with them, they can start taking money out without your permission. And that's where it gets messy and not only that, it's about relationship too. Like we throw in the ethos of this. The IRS, if you're ghosting them, they're not going to be the nicest people when it comes time, like when you start having those discussions, like, why were you ignoring our letters? The best thing you can do is just address it and not let it bubble up, because I know so many clients who come to me with a stack of letters that they haven't looked at. They want me to look at them and they don't want to read them. And the best thing you can do is, and that stack is actually like a 20-pound weight on their shoulders, because they're just worried about that. It's just sitting in the corner, but it's never getting addressed because it doesn't manifest in your daily life. It doesn't have any outcome that affects you right away. Let that sit. It's kind of like not working out for years, right? And then you have like health issues.
Not
like,
addressing your health issues.
right. So, and it actually can turn into, depending on what you believe in, it can turn into a health, because the stress can get to you. So I really focus on, addressing those things, attacking those, and just saying, let's handle each letter one time. And then you'll never 30 letters stack up, that huge list of things to do if you just out the 1, 2, 3 things. But I know it's not that easy for people. But the first step is just kind of acknowledging it and saying, why am I afraid of this? Because nobody is rooting against you. The IRS is not this evil entity trying to get you or trying to get your money. They just want to get through the paperwork. I mean, if you want to break it down, the same people who work at the IRS work at like the DMV. Like these are normal people paying mortgages who live in.
Oh, man, I don't, it doesn't feel that way. You get an IRS letter, it feels like, like buff guy wearing a suit, in like a penthouse somewhere. But yeah, you're right.
It's a government agency. It's probably an intern. They use fax machines. They're not that intimidating. You call them. I call up the practitioner hotline, which, by the way, if you have a tax pro, we have a special hotline we call where we get to cut the line and we get to ask questions. And I talk to the practitioner hotline. I ended up talking to a guy from Kentucky for like 45 minutes about just life, because I was asking questions about a client and then he was telling me all about what was happening at their office. And it's really stressful for them. They have too much to get through and they're trying to do the best they can. And you have to really disassociate this IRS as this like entity that is out to get you. They are normal American adults who are just trying to get by, pay their mortgages, and to enforce the law. They're not trying to get any more out of you than what you legally owe. And that's the balance is, saying, hey, you owe a little bit more, we think. And then if you have a tax pro, you can appeal that and say, actually, I don't think we do, and here's why. Or you can pay it and then it's handled. Nothing's like a black mark on your,
on your resume and a black mark on your record somewhere. Like you don't have on a list. It's fine. It's just handled.
Mm.
And it happens more often than you think.
Do you think successful business owners take more financial risk? What is the pattern that you see?
I think they take financial risk, but I think they take calculated risk. I think that when you take risk as a, I guess, more, say, high earning or successful business owner, chances are you're taking these risks, but you are in a position to do that. So maybe it feels like more risk, but maybe it's just like on that edge of your comfort zone, right? But I think they do. And I think most high earning or successful business owners can take those risks because that's probably how they got there in the first place. They probably took risks, they paid off, so they're willing to take more. They're willing to put more money back on the table because they won. And 100%, yeah, exactly. It's 100% calculated risk because you would think that these are serendipitous, they're coincidences, like they're luck. And in reality, in the background, there's all this data, there's all of this support, all this experience, and all these professionals and these advisors that are propping up the entrepreneur and saying, this is what will work. And you'll never see that. You'll only see what's working. And I think you have to really, just like with Instagram, the highlight reels and everything, like you see these people succeeding, that could be years of planning. That's a lot of data. That's a lot of metrics. That's a lot of the nitty gritty stuff that you have to either embrace as a business owner or find someone to do that with you.
Let's talk about that. What are the most common setbacks that you think business owners don't talk about, but are just kind of it's just a part of it?
So setbacks they don't talk about.
Setbacks that if you're starting a business, you should just expect because it's there.
I mean, expect that like you're not always gonna get your taxes right. You might get IRS letters, and it's like everybody gets them. I even wrote my clients and said, like, you might get one because their records are a little off right now. Like, don't panic, just call me. That's not uncommon.
Okay.
You might get, I'm trying to think. Oh, one thing is you're gonna spend way more than you think.
Okay. Let's talk about that. Spend way more on what?
So you may think, like, let's say you're doing online coaching or you're running a business online. Oh, this is easy. I'm going to focus on growing my revenue numbers, keep growing my revenue numbers, more sales. And we're all guilty of this. How many online coaches do you see saying like, oh, I made $100,000 month or whatever? That's fine. But how much of that are they keeping?
Yeah.
And
Talk about it all the time.
Making money? What's your actual margin, which is your profit, right? How much are you holding on to? And that's where I come in and measure, well, how much are you really keeping? Because you're spending money on this, like this subscription, that subscription. Are you really using it? Is that making you money? Are the Facebook ads working? Are the coaches that you're hiring, worth the money? Are they getting a return? So we look at all of these different factors, right, on performance and seeing where can we either cut costs or grow revenue, because those are the two factors in profit. But I feel like cutting costs is overlooked. I feel like people are so focused on driving the revenue up. It's like you can't out exercise a bad diet. If you're not spending wisely, then you really can't outsell horrible spending. You're just going to keep doing it on that same pace if you can't hold on to what you're earning.
What would you say is a good margin for an online business?
It depends on the type of business, but I like to, I mean, I look at we have KPIs and we have metrics for each of our clients. So we try to, it's as much as possible, right? We want to have the highest margin.
Yeah.
Realistically though, like it really varies. It really varies. It's hard to say.
When you see an online business and they're, they're trimming down their margin even more, what would you say that red flag line would be?
You know what it is though? There really isn't a red flag line, but what I would do is look at why it is the way it is. Like I have to unpack what is going into that, because they could have an 80% margin, but it should be 90.
Okay.
Have and that's a great margin, obviously. Like they should 100% as possible. But if you have like a 10% margin, for example, then I feel like you're really hustling, you're really hustling and burning out for what? Like, where's all this money going? Especially if you're online, because generally it costs to be online these days. Like, this is free. This is a free platform where you can be advertising and selling. And it should be relatively easy compared to past decades to start a business in 2021 and to have pretty high margins. The only thing is, do you need a team? Do you need software platforms? For example, for me, I run a completely virtual accounting practice. And my margin is probably not super high because I have expensive tax software. I have expensive tools that I have to use for my clients, tax planning, tax software, and reporting tools that I need to be able to serve them. And that's a big piece of my cost. So even though it's a low cost to be online, depending on what business you run, it can actually run up.
I think when I see businesses and it's online businesses, because I know how inexpensive it can be and how profitable it can be, I think when I start seeing like 30, I'm like, yeah, just this, just keep it there. Keep it right there. Don't move. What advice would you give to someone who says they're not ready to hire an accountant? They're using like TurboTax. Yeah, all the easy stuff online. What advice would you give to somebody?
Yeah, I would tell them, TurboTax can get you by like the first year, maybe. But if you're going to be investing in a business, if you're going to be trying to grow a business, one of the earliest relationships you should create is with a financial advisor of some kind. So whether that's an accountant, a tax preparer, a bookkeeper, I would recommend that you hire a bookkeeper first if you are on a budget. So at least having your bookkeeping done. So when you're ready to elevate to having a CFO or an accountant look at your stuff, there's stuff to look at so that you have the data collected to give to someone to analyze and give back to you. And I think that's one of the biggest things. People have a misconception that hiring an accountant is a massive investment. And it can be, depending on what level of service you need. But in general, if you're just starting out, all you need is a really solid bookkeeper, a good bookkeeping platform, a separate bank account, simple tools that you can layer up as you grow and start investing in a little bit more robust processes to maintain your finances. But you have to start with the basics. I say all the time, don't pick out interior decorations until the walls are up.
Yep.
Right? You
I'm
have to
doing that
build,
already.
right. That's the fun part though. So I always encourage folks to, to build the foundations, create one step at a time, hire the bookkeeper, a tax preparer, somebody who can understand your business and grow with you, and then maybe make that move into, more of a CPA, a CFO, if you need more of that year-round advice, which I highly encourage every business owner to
Right.
get.
And that's something that TurboTax can't do.
Correct.
It's not a human. It's not thinking person that's involved in helping you grow your business. Okay, so one of the last questions that I ask all my guests at Pretty Rich Podcast, like which Pretty Rich am I in? I'm in Pretty Rich Podcast. Which one is it? What is your one piece of advice for how to create a pretty rich life? And when we say rich, we mean rich in wealth in all areas, not just financially, but spiritually, emotionally, relationally, all of it.
So to create a pretty rich life, I would say it starts with really embracing and welcoming what you want into your life and defining that. So really owning, like, this is what I want. This is what I want my life to look like. And not thinking of it like it's this, pie in the sky. Wouldn't that be nice? Daydream, but actually painting the picture of that's my destination. What is the first stop on the trail to get there? And really having a clear picture of what you want. And that doesn't have to be super defined. I mean, for me, I have never had like a 5-year plan or anything planned in advance, but I know what I want my life to feel like in 5 years.
Feel like I
What I
love
want,
that.
yeah, like I want to enjoy waking up every day. I want to help people. It can be as simple as that. Well, what are you doing every day to get closer to that goal or to live that goal? Because my husband and I both, we are firm believers in do not wait to live your life. That's exactly why we have done what we've done in the past year. We have just decided that, retirement isn't a guarantee. It's not all about saving for the future. It's about enjoying life now. and doing it while we're young. So there's a lot of things that we want to experience. And I think a pretty rich life is one where you're not, you know, betting on the future only.
Mm. I love that. And I want to lean into that more is focus on how you want your life to feel. Because isn't that what we're all hustling for is just a feeling? Like I know like I hustle because I want freedom. I want to feel free. I want to feel in peace. That's what really that is. Yeah. And so thank you for inspiring us this morning to pinpoint the feeling
Yes.
and go for that. Oh, thank you so much, Shannon, for spending time with me today and all the time. And where can we find you for just the audio listeners of this podcast, and how can we work with you?
So my Instagram is at Shannon K. Weinstein. I'm most active on that platform. And yeah, you can find me on Instagram. You can head to my website, and I hope to see you there soon. You can work with me through coaching or through my monthly accounting services, depending on what stage of your business you're in. We got you. So just reach out and we'll find the best option.
Awesome.
One of the things that holds people back from starting their business and going all in on it to grow it is this hesitation around setting it up properly or cleaning things up to make sure everything is legally and compliantly sound. Between setting up the actual business legally and knowing how to manage the money, there's a lot that can intimidate somebody and scare them into not starting. And that's why I bundled up my 5 best resources all together for brand new business owners or for anyone who's looking to clean things up. This is my 5-day mindset refresh because you know it always starts with mindset, and my business financial quick starter, which is my starter course for anyone looking to start a business with all the key elements you need to do in order. My tax deduction guide with hundreds of deductions you can take for your business today. My Money Pro matchmaker on how to find the right professional for you, and my cash flow forecasting mini course. This is the ultimate Swiss Army knife. It includes tools and templates, everything you need to get started on your business successfully or clean things up if you feel like you've fallen behind. Grab your copy right now. The Small Business Starter Kit is yours for free using the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.